Folks, we have breaking news on January 8th, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. It was announced by Notre Dame that Marcus Freeman was hired as Notre Dame's defensive coordinator and linebackers coach. He spent the past few seasons at Cincinnati. And of course, just this past season, the Bearcats were undefeated in the regular season, faced Georgia, went toe-to-toe with the Bulldogs, but then Georgia, pulled out that kind of, come from behind victory in the last moments of the game. Guys, to start, I think we got to give a huge thumbs up. Not only on this video, please do give a thumbs up on this video and please subscribe to our channel here, but a big thumbs up to Brian Kelly and Notre Dame brass for getting this hire done. The feeling even going into Friday morning was that Marcus Freeman was likely landing at LSU. Michigan and Texas were also involved. And you think about those two programs and LSU, I mean, big money that those two programs could offer Marcus Freeman. And of course, Notre Dame could offer big money as well, and they did. And, they were able to beat out those schools. It really came down to LSU and Notre Dame. And he did virtual interviews with both schools earlier this week. He was on campus at Notre Dame and LSU this week as well. Got back from LSU, I believe it was Thursday night. Met with Cincinnati. And, soon gave them the news that he was going elsewhere. I mean, Cincinnati, since their season ended, their quarterback said he's coming back. Luke Fickell has turned down other jobs. And, Cincinnati had such a strong season in 2020 that, you think that they maybe were going to have that, one big run this upcoming season to get into the college football playoff as the first group of 5 school to ever do that. But Marcus Freeman won't be a part of that team, obviously, because Marcus Freeman is hired as Notre Dame's defensive coordinator. Another thing to mention, guys, he was probably the hottest commodity of defensive coordinators this offseason. And Notre Dame got the number one guy. The feeling going into the coaching search was that Freeman probably was going to, stay pat and wait at Cincinnati and then get a head coaching position. But he loves Notre Dame. The Midwest is a place he really wanted to stay. So he went ahead, took the Notre Dame job. And look, 3 years is about the typical length you see with coordinators. I mean, look, Chip Long was at Notre Dame for 3 years. Clark Lea had a 3-year stint as Notre Dame's defense coordinator, 4 years total because he was the linebackers coach the year that Mike Elko was at Notre Dame. But so does he do 3 full seasons at Notre Dame? Is it just 2? Could he, if Notre Dame has an incredible defensive season this fall in 2021, could he bolt after this year? All those things are on the table, but I just feel like you can't worry about those things. You got to worry about the here and now. Like I've seen some fans talk about, the quarterback position. Let's go ahead and take our lumps with Tyler Buckner and, not start someone like Jack Cohn. See, coaches can't think like that. It's a here and now, what have you done for me lately kind of job. So you bring in Marcus Freeman, see what he can do this year. Hey, I'll just kind of speculate, what if this is, someone who could be a coach in waiting type deal. I mean, I'm not trying to get ahead of myself, but, could this be the next head coach at Notre Dame, if he does stick around for 3 or 4 years? And maybe, Brian Kelly retires and then Marcus Freeman, could be Notre Dame's next head coach. Again, I'm speculating here, just kind of throwing crap against the wall. But again, guys, there's just so much to be excited about if you're a Notre Dame fan. This is the guy, again, who was the hot commodity in the defensive coordinator searches. Again, Michigan, Texas, Auburn was in the mix as well. But it really came down to LSU and Notre Dame. And this is just someone who just fell in love with Notre Dame. He's brought his family up to campus on Tuesday, and they really loved what they saw. Here is what Brian Kelly, of course, Notre Dame's head coach, had to say about Marcus Freeman. As we looked into finding someone to run our defense, it was important to find the right fit for our program, and Marcus and his family are just that. He has had great success on the field, both running a defense and in his direct work with his linebackers. Of course, guys, He will be Notre Dame's linebackers coach as well. And we'll get into kind of his, career steps to how he got here. Back to Kelly's quote. Additionally, he is considered among the elite recruiters in the coaching ranks. And guys, we'll touch on that as well. So that was an important part of the process in the hiring process. Coach Kelly was finding someone who was an elite recruiter. And guys, Marcus Freeman really fits that. Back to Kelly's quote again. The work Marcus has done elevating the programs he has been a part of speaks for itself. But equally as important is the exceptional work he has done in building relationships with his players and with his staff and players. Marcus was our top choice to become our next defensive coordinator, and we are pleased he and his family will be joining us at Notre Dame. Some of the other names that were involved in the coaching search, I want to say there was 5, maybe 6. Freeman, obviously, like Kelly said in this quote, top choice. You had Mike Elston, defensive line coach. There's rumors that, Purdue is looking at him potentially to be their defensive coordinator, so that could be something to keep an eye on. You had Jay Bateman, North Carolina's defensive coordinator. Zach Arnett, I believe his name is, at Mississippi State. Mike Elko was tossed around. Of course, Notre Dame's former defensive coordinator, a few years back, and that never really had any legs. Don Brown was actually thrown around a little bit. He landed with Arizona as their defensive coordinator. So you had several names in the mix, but Freeman was the top guy, and he's the one that Notre Dame got. Let's look at his career here. Spent several seasons with Ohio State as a linebacker there. Was a second-team All Big Ten performer. And played in some really big games for the Ohio State Buckeyes. Bounced around Chicago Bears, Buffalo Bills, Houston Texans, all 3 of those teams in 2009. Next year, after NFL didn't work out, goes to Ohio State as a grad assistant, and then boom. I mean that's a quick turnaround to go from Ohio State grad assistant to a full-time assistant coaching position at the Division I level, at the FBS level even, with Kent State. Spent a couple of years there, and then spent a few seasons with Purdue from 2013 to 15 as their linebackers coach, and then in 2016 as their co-defensive coordinator and linebackers coach. And then 2017 to, earlier today, he was with Cincinnati and really did a great job with their defense. There's just a ton of excitement, guys. And want to go back to Kelly's quote on Marcus Freeman as a recruiter. There was some scuttlebutt that 5-star linebacker CJ Hicks from Ohio, currently committed to Ohio State. There's some scuttlebutt that he might, consider flipping to Cincinnati. So you just have to wonder, with Marcus Freeman on the job, could they go after CJ Hicks and potentially flip him from Ohio State? This is a guy I talked to when Notre Dame offered him early in 2020. And, he was interested in Notre Dame, but, it's tough to beat out Ohio State for, prospects in their backyard. Doesn't happen a ton. Obviously, Notre Dame's able to do with Lorenzo Styles in the 2021 class. But, here's a big name, CJ Hicks in the 2022 class. And make sure to go to blueandgold.com. I have an article, the Marcus Freeman Recruiting Impact premium article for our subscribers at blueandgold.com. Use promo code BGI30 to get a 30-day free trial to check us out there. So, on the field, considered, the top defensive coordinator in this, offseason cycle. And then as a recruiter, Notre Dame is getting a big-time hire. So in the comment section of this video, let me know what you think about this hire. Leave a thumbs up if you like it, and just leave a thumbs up, even if you don't.